In today's video we'll cover a full DIY guide on how you can change the front brake pads and discs on your BMW at home. I'll cover every single step and stick around for the part at the end of the video that most people forget about. Okay, so the first thing we want to remove is this just locking tab here. I'm just going to get a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver, put it like this and push it back, which should be able to get you, or let you get these two hooks out of the brake caliper. There we go. It's off. Now, the next thing we'll do is actually just going to turn this wheel. The steering locked, but I'll turn the wheel so the caliper's pointed outwards, just to give us easier access for everything else we're going to do. Okay, so next we're going to have to take off the caliper, which is held on with two slide pin bolts. They're in these rubber mounts and they both have caps at the top. There's one at the top here and one at the bottom. So all you have to do is get a flathead or a really small pry bar and just press them off. They are just press fit parts like this. Oh, if I get that to focus. That's the bottom off, and that's the top off. So next we're going to take a 7mm Allen key bolt and just put it into both of these slide pins here and loosen them off. They won't fully come out, you just need to loosen them where the threads aren't engaged anymore. And you'll be able to feel when that is just freely spinning, and you'll see the side pin coming out the bottom here. So that's the bottom done. I'm just going to do the top at the same time. Okay, so now that both of our caliper bolts are loose, you can see this caliper is actually still quite tight on this, although both of them are fully disconnected. So you have two options. Just to get this fully loose, you can give this a good pull from this side, which will compress the caliper, or again, pry bar or flathead screwdriver in here and just leverage the caliper against the brake disc, and that will slightly compress the piston enough to get it off. Just before you do take this off, there is two things you need to keep in mind. One, we don't want this to be dangling from the brake line, and two, we have the pad wire sensor also still connected in here. So what I usually do is I will take a hook and hang it up here off the coil spring, and then I will hang the caliper off that hook just to keep the weight off both that sensor and the brake line. So now that's fully loosened, let's just get this off. Okay, so now that we have the caliper up and supported, we will now take off these brake caliper carriers. And this is easy done. It is just two bolts in at the back here, and one 16mm at the bottom and another 16mm up the top here. So they can kind of be awkward to get to. I'll see if I can get a ratchet on it. If not, I will put a spanner and an extension on it. One out, bottom one, okay, so caliper off, we'll put that aside and clean that later. And the last part to get off now is just the brake disc itself. Get this spun around. And all we need to do is to take off this set screw here, which is another Allen bit. This is a 6mm Allen bit we need for this one. And I'm just going to put it in and just take my time to be careful and not to strip this one. Perfect. Usually it's a nightmare to get these discs off, to hit them with a hammer, but this one's actually just coming off straight away. So I'm just going to give this a quick clean up. This one's actually in quite good condition. I think the wheel hub was done maybe a year and a half ago, so it's not that old. I'm just going to give it a quick wire wheel to get some of the surface rust off, and then I'm going to put some small amount of anti-seize on it. Okay, so we got the hub all cleaned up. I just used a wire brush all around this face to get some of that loose rust off. And now I'm going to put on some anti-seize. A lot of people like to argue back and forth of whether or not you should put anything on these hubs. I think people think if you put copper grease or anti-seize on it that it'll make the wheel not sit perfectly flat on it, but I live in Ireland where it rains every day and we put a lot of salt on our roads, so a really thin layer of anti-seize is going to be a lot better than lumps of rust. And that is all you need. You don't really need a lot. Right, you also want to give a good clean in here to where the pad is actually going to slide on both of your caliper carriers, and through that I've just scraped away a lot of the dirt with a screwdriver, and then also just got a wire brush in between each channel and cleaned it out, and then finally just give it a spray down with some brake cleaner. And at the same time, now that I have cleaned out both the brake caliper carriers, I'm just going to put a really small amount of anti-seize right in here where the brake pad is going to sit. You don't want to put too much on because this is actually going to trap dirt and trap dirt in it, so this is one of the cases where less is more. So next we're just going to take this pad out of the caliper that has the sensor on it. There we go. Now this is a good time to check all around your caliper, see if the seals or the dust boots are intact, or see if there's any leaks or any damage at all. So to push this caliper back in, we're just going to use this caliper rewind tool. The one I have here is about 11 years old. I think I got it for about £5 or £10, and I keep telling myself when it stops working I'll buy a new one, and it just keeps working. It's very simple. This part just comes into here, and this part will slide in here, and you just keep screwing it in until this piston is pushed all the way back. But you want to keep an eye on doing this, that you don't twist this dust boot, because if it starts moving then you can twist it and tear it very easily. So now the piston is all the way back and the dust boot isn't pinched or folded anywhere, so that's good. Another way you can do this, depending on what way your tool is set up, is you can leave the brake pad in and push against the brake pad, which is usually the better option because it means your piston won't be twisting, so you probably won't damage any of the boot or the seal, but my tool never fits the brake pad in, so I just use it like that. Now that that's done, I'm actually going to give behind here a quick clean, just in the parts that touch the pad. No need to grease that or anything, it's only touching the back of the pad. And some people grease this piston, but again I don't think there's need because it's only pressing at one point and then never moves again. Now at this stage you should replace the brake pad wear sensor, and all you do is just trace this wire back. It's held into a couple of clips up in the back here, and then it goes into this box at the back. This just unclips, and then you will see the connector for it at the top. You just pinch this end and pull that end and it comes off. Put your new one in, route it back around exactly where the old one came, and put it into your new pads. So before we put the new brake calipers on, we need to clean them with brake cleaner, as they are covered in oil from the factory just to stop them from rusting. So we're just going to get some brake cleaner, put it under a cloth and just wipe around the surface that the brake pad is going to be sitting on. Okay, time to put on the new brake disc. Just going to be careful not to put any grease on that mating surface from the dirt on my hands, and I'm just going to line up that set screw with the brake disc. So that's good. There There we go. Next thing to go on is the calipers. So I am going to go into the car and turn this wheel around. So next thing to go on is the caliper carriers. So that's one bolt loosely in, and we'll just get the other one in before we fully tighten it. Okay, so next thing we will get is the brake pads. So on these brake pads we have this holder this side that will sit into the piston of the caliper itself. So this will sit like that in on the caliper, and this other side will just sit in the carrier like that on the other side. These can be fiddly enough to get in, you just have to give it a bit of force and make sure that the inside curve of this here is actually going into the caliper and not being pushed on the outside of it. And then once you have that in, the brake pad sensor is going to go into this slot right here. Get that focus? Yeah. It just slits right into here, exactly where we took the old one out from. So let's get these into place. And now from this side I will just feed in the brake pad sensor. With the brake pad I'm just going to put in the carrier sitting in loose like this. Flip our caliper back round and slide it into place. Now all we have to do is tighten these back two caliper slide bolts, and that is the caliper back in. Just before you tighten up your caliper, now is a good time just to take out your slide pins and make sure they are clean. BMW recommend that you don't actually grease these. The grease on the outside of them can cause the rubber around it to actually swell, and that pinches down the caliper and causes it to stick, or the caliper pin, sorry, and causes it to stick. So most cars you'd be tempted to grease these to help it slide, but these are actually the opposite, where if you do grease them it'll prevent it sliding. So these are looking quite good, I actually don't need to clean them, but if you take it out and there's bits of grease and debris on it, give them a quick clean, just really high grade sandpaper or just Scotch-Brite or something like that, and then no need to grease them, put them back in. Slide pins back in. So let's go back in with our 7mm Allen bit and tighten up these two caliper slide bolts. Perfect. Now our two plastic caps for the slide bolts. Just press them back in. Perfect. And something not to forget is whatever you held the caliper up with on the spring, make sure to take that off. Now all that's left to do on this side is to put a new clip on. You don't have to replace these, but they are cheap, so you might as well. And the trick to it is to just roughly have it in place and then pull the caliper as you push this clip in with your thumbs at the same time. There we go. Okay, so I got the sensor and I've pressed into the slot on this side and just routed it back everywhere it needed to go, following the same direction as it was before, and reconnected it up at this connection box up here. Now the last thing we're going to have to do is just get this wheel back on, and then I will show you the one step that everyone usually forgets to do when they do this themselves. So now that we're back in the car, just before we actually go for a drive, the one thing you need to remember to do is, before you move, pump the brakes a couple of times, because if you remember, we pushed back the pistons in the calipers. So if you were to take off driving right now and went to push the brake, nothing's going to happen for the first couple of pumps. So now that that's feeling stiff again, it's good to go. And with that said, that's everything finished. So hope you found this useful. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe down below, like the video if you can, and leave a comment if any tips that could help anybody else out. Okay, thank you very much.